Look closely at the average dinner plate in 2026. It is a calculated illusion. We are living through a historical paradox where the average person is clinically obese yet starving on a cellular level. We consume thousands of calories, yet our bodies are screaming for nutrients that simply no longer exist in industrial produce. This is not an accident. It is the result of a food system that traded life-sustaining density for shelf-stable profits. But while the masses rely on fortified cereals and synthetic multivitamins, a biological cheat code is growing silently in the cracks of your driveway. What if I told you that a single plant, often dismissed as a stubborn weed, is actually a miracle of evolution? Imagine a leaf that contains 15 times more vitamin A than carrots and more protein by weight than a prime ribeye steak. This isn't a laboratory creation or a patented GMO breakthrough. It is an act of total nutritional independence, growing for free in the very dirt that Big AG told you to poison with glyphosate. This botanical powerhouse offers a level of survival security that no grocery store can match, providing a complete amino acid profile while thriving in the harshest conditions imaginable. We have been conditioned to look toward the laboratory for health, while the true miracle was erased from our collective memory. But if this plant is the ultimate human fuel, why has it been systematically scrubbed from every grocery shelf in the Western world? To understand why your backyard is a battlefield, you have to follow the money. We are currently trapped within a trillion-dollar control grid that views your self-sufficiency as a direct threat to its bottom line. This is the era of the deficiency-based economy. Big Pharma and Big AG do not profit from your health. They harvest your chronic dependencies. If every citizen realized they could grow a literal pharmacy and a complete protein source in a small 4x4 patch of dirt, the entire industrial food complex would face a total collapse. This knowledge hasn't been lost. It has been suppressed. The system relies on a population that is just healthy enough to work, but too depleted to resist. This is why we see the rise of aggressive local ordinances and HOA regulations that have effectively criminalized the cultivation of high-density survival crops. Under the deceptive guise of aesthetic maintenance and property value protection, they have banned the very plants that could grant you independence from their supply chains. They want manicured, nutrient-dead lawns that require constant chemical inputs they happen to sell you. By labeling life-saving botanicals as invasive species or unsightly weeds, they ensure that the average person remains tethered to the grocery store and the pharmacy counter. This is strategic erasure. When you can no longer identify the medicine growing at your feet, you are forced to buy the synthetic alternative. We are being nudged into a state of permanent biological vulnerability where our very survival is managed by corporate interests that prioritize quarterly earnings over human vitality. The reality is that a garden of forbidden plants is an act of revolution. It is the only way to opt out of a game where the rules are rigged against your longevity. The system doesn't want you healthy. It wants you subscribed. And there is one specific plant that threatens their entire subscription model. It is time to strip away the veil and name the ultimate threat to the industrial food complex. Depending on your climate, this botanical rebel takes two primary forms: Moringa Oleifera for the sun-drenched south, and the stinging nettle for the temperate north. For centuries, these have been labeled as nuisances or primitive forage, yet they represent the purest form of nature's rebellion. This is not just another vegetable to add to your garden bed. It is a hyper-efficient bioaccumulator that defies every law of modern agricultural logic. While commercial crops are pampered with synthetic nitrogen and proprietary fertilizers just to survive the week, these plants thrive in the most depleted, neglected soils on Earth. They are built for survival, resisting pests with natural chemical defenses that make industrial pesticides redundant. Growing these species is a secret act of defiance because they offer a level of total independence that the system cannot monetize. They do not require a laboratory to thrive, and they certainly do not need a patent to function. In a world of fragile, genetically modified hybrids that fail at the first sign of drought, Moringa and Nettle stand as pillars of resilience. They are the keys to a life lived outside the control grid, providing a dense concentration of life-sustaining compounds that make the average grocery store produce look like colorful cardboard. By cultivating these, you are reclaiming an ancestral power that was nearly lost to history. You are no longer a consumer. You are a producer of a high-grade biological resource that the authorities would rather see eradicated from your site. But don't take my word for it. Let's look at the raw, undeniable data that makes the FDA and supplement industry sweat. When we move past the propaganda and into the laboratory, the true threat of this plant becomes terrifyingly clear to the establishment. Most plant-based proteins are fundamentally incomplete, forcing you to play a complex game of food combining just to maintain basic muscle mass and neurotransmitter function. But here, the rules of biology are rewritten. This miracle plant contains all 9 essential amino acids, making it a complete protein source that rivals animal products in its biochemical profile. This is almost unheard of in the botanical world. It provides the leucine, lysine, and valine your body craves, delivered in a bioavailable form that your cells recognize instantly. When you compare this to the hollow, commercially grown spinach found in your local supermarket, the contrast is staggering. Modern industrial farming has depleted our topsoil to such an extent that you would need to eat 8 bowls of supermarket greens to get the same mineral content our grandparents received from a single serving. We are paying a premium price for what is effectively nutritional water, wrapped in plastic and polished with wax. Now look at the calcium density. This forbidden foliage contains 17 times more calcium than a glass of pasteurized milk, without the inflammatory response or the industrial hormones. It boasts 25 times the iron of spinach and 9 times the protein of yogurt. These aren't just marginal gains. This is total nutritional superiority. The iron density alone is a strategic asset for anyone looking to maintain high energy levels and cognitive clarity, without relying on synthetic iron salts that are notoriously difficult for the human gut to absorb. Because these minerals are chelated by the plant itself, they bypass the digestive hurdles of low-quality supplements. This is why the existence of such a plant is a direct threat to the status quo. You have been conditioned to believe that your body is a fragile machine that requires constant external inputs from a bottle to function correctly. The reality is that the fuel you need has been labeled a weed and left to grow in the dirt, while you spend your hard-earned currency on fortified fillers that offer the illusion of health without the substance. This is the ultimate FOMO moment. Realizing that while you were worried about supply chain shortages and rising food costs, the most dense survival food on the planet was already under your feet, free for the taking and impossible to tax. We are talking about a concentration of vitamin C that dwarfs citrus and a potassium level that makes bananas look like a joke. By integrating this into your daily life, you are essentially installing a high-performance upgrade into your own DNA. If everyone knew these numbers, the multi-billion-dollar synthetic vitamin industry would vanish overnight. And that's exactly why they've lobbied to keep it off your plate. The corporate strategy is beautifully simple. If they can't patent it, they will criminalize or suppress it. The ultimate threat to their multi-trillion-dollar monopoly is anything that grows freely and provides total nutritional independence. You see, you can't put a patent on a common stinging nettle or a Moringa tree. These plants are a part of our shared biological heritage, and that is precisely why they have been systematically suppressed. The entire industrial food complex, led by giants in Big AG, relies on a business model of enforced dependency. Their objective is not to feed the world. Their objective is control. They need farmers to buy their genetically modified seeds year after year, seeds that are specifically engineered to require their proprietary fertilizers and pesticides. It is a closed-loop system of profit extraction. A plant that thrives in poor soil, resists pests naturally, and self-propagates is a declaration of war against that system. It is the ultimate decentralizer. When you have seed sovereignty, the right and the ability to save, plant, and share your own seeds, you remove yourself entirely from their control grid. This concept of seed sovereignty is why global corporations have pushed for restrictive intellectual property laws that make saving seeds illegal in many contexts. They want you reliant on their fragile, centralized supply chains. Consider the pharmaceutical industry's angle. This plant offers compounds that treat inflammation, boost the immune system, and regulate blood sugar. These are all conditions managed by expensive, lifetime prescriptions. If a homeowner can walk into their backyard and harvest their cure for free, Big Pharma's profits vanish. This is not hyperbole. It is a cold, calculated economic reality. The deliberate erasure of this knowledge ensures a steady stream of customers for both the pharmacy and the grocery store. They need you to believe that a highly processed supplement is superior to a whole, living food. They need you to remain ignorant of the power in your own backyard. Every seed you plant of this forbidden species is a vote against their monopoly and a step towards reclaiming your autonomy. It is the most powerful act of peaceful rebellion available to the modern citizen. They erased it from the modern mind, but they couldn't erase it from history. Our ancestors knew what we've been forced to forget. The most effective way to enslave a population is to sever their connection to their own history. Long before the rise of the supermarket and the industrial pharmacy, our ancestors relied on these botanical powerhouses as their ultimate famine breaker. In ancient civilizations, these plants were not viewed as weeds, but as sacred guardians of public health. During the darkest days of the Great Depression, families who had lost everything managed to survive and even thrive by tapping into this hidden ancestral memory. They knew that when the grain silos were empty and the supply lines were severed, the earth still provided a dense, life-sustaining resource that required no money to acquire. However, as we moved into the mid-20th century, a deliberate shift occurred. The so-called Green Revolution arrived with a promise of feeding the world, but it came at a devastating cost to our collective knowledge. During this era, information about high nutrition, self-sustaining plants was systematically deleted from school curriculums and agricultural textbooks. This was a strategic move to clear the path for high-input, low-nutrition commodity crops like corn and soy. These crops are the perfect tools for a centralized state. They are easy to tax, easy to transport, and impossible to grow without industrial intervention. By removing the study of wild edibles and resilient perennials from our education, the system effectively lobotomized our survival instincts. We were taught to view the very plants that saved our forefathers as signs of poverty or lack of sophistication. This historical erasure has left the modern citizen more vulnerable than any generation before them. We have traded thousands of years of botanical wisdom for a handful of corporate-controlled seeds that cannot survive a single season without chemical support. This knowledge was hidden in plain sight, masked by a narrative that progress means moving away from the land. But the truth remains buried in the soil, waiting for those with the courage to look back. Reclaiming this context is not just a history lesson. It is a vital act of self-preservation in an increasingly unstable world. We must remember what they worked so hard to make us forget. History is written by the victors, but the survivors are the ones who know how to forage. Here is how you can reclaim that power today. Exploring the natural world for edible plants can be a rewarding experience. Understanding how to identify, sustainably harvest, and even cultivate some wild edibles can connect you with nature and provide a deeper appreciation for where food comes from. However, it is crucial to approach foraging and wildcrafting with knowledge and caution. One of the most important aspects of foraging is accurate identification. Many edible plants have poisonous lookalikes, so it is essential to be absolutely certain of a plant's identity before consuming any part of it. Consulting with experienced foragers, using reliable field guides specific to your region, and taking identification courses can help build your knowledge and confidence. Never eat a plant if you are unsure of what it is. Sustainable harvesting practices are also vital to ensure that wild plant populations can thrive for future generations. This means only taking what you need, leaving plenty for the plant to recover and reproduce, and being mindful of the plant's life cycle. Avoid overharvesting from a single area. Be aware of any local regulations regarding foraging, as some areas may restrict or prohibit the collection of plants. Always respect private property and obtain permission before foraging on land that is not your own. Beyond foraging, some wild edible plants can be cultivated in a home garden. Researching the specific needs of these plants, such as soil type, light requirements, and watering, is key to successful cultivation. Integrating them into your existing garden landscape can be a way to grow them, provided you are following any local gardening ordinances or HOA guidelines. For example, some edible plants can be grown in containers or incorporated into ornamental beds. Safety is paramount when dealing with wild plants. Be aware of potential contaminants, such as pesticides or pollutants, especially in urban areas or near roadsides. Wash all foraged and homegrown edibles thoroughly before consumption. Learning about edible plants, whether through foraging or cultivation, can be an enriching skill. By prioritizing safety, accurate identification, sustainability, and respect for regulations and the environment, you can enjoy the benefits of these natural resources responsibly. As we navigate the increasingly fragile reality of 2026, the concept of food security has shifted from a hobbyist pursuit to a critical strategic necessity. We are currently witnessing the terminal decline of just-in-time delivery systems, and when the global supply chains finally fracture beyond repair, your survival will depend entirely on your local biological assets. This plant is not just a garden inhabitant. It is your ultimate insurance policy against total collapse. While the masses are left fighting over the final, nutrient-void cans of beans on ransacked grocery shelves, the rebels who kept this knowledge alive will possess a renewable, high-protein pharmacy right in their own backyard. This is a set-and-forget security system that does not require electricity, fuel, or external inputs to function. Its resilience is its greatest weapon. It thrives in the face of the very droughts and heat waves that are currently decimating industrial monocrops, providing a constant stream of life-sustaining minerals when you need them most. In a survival scenario, calories are common, but complete nutrition is rare. By securing this botanical resource now, you are building a wall of physiological resilience that no economic crisis can breach. You are opting out of the starvation games and stepping into a position of strategic strength. This is how you protect your family when the institutions fail to do so. The gates are closing on the old world. Will you be outside the fence, or will you have the keys to your own survival? Explore resources on food sovereignty and learn how you can take steps towards growing your own food or supporting local food systems. Discover information on sustainable agriculture, seed saving, and connecting with communities focused on independent food production.